Sthula Jagat, then there is a Sukshma Jagat, and there is a Manomaya, Vijnanamaya Jagat, and then Manomaya Jagat, Vijnanamaya Jagat, finally you have Anandamaya Jagat. So Ananda is the highest in a sense. You can get bits and pieces of that Ananda even lower down, but pure unmixed Ananda is at the highest level. So that's what we are going to read now. What is its nature? And so the bliss soul. Yasmin, do you have the text? I think she doesn't have the text. So normally Archana begins, and I think
no, I only have the synthesis book with me. So I can read if you want.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, tell me.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly. No problem.
So I have the synthesis book with me, so I can only read synthesis.
Yeah, today we are in synthesis only.
Yeah, so I can read today.
Oh, very good. So I don't know what book you have, but we have the chapter is Gnosis and Ananda.
Yeah, I got it.
The bliss soul.
Yeah.
Okay, you are reading after many, many days.
The bliss soul is
Yeah.
not bound to birth or to non-birth. It is not driven by desire of the knowledge or harassed by fear of the ignorance. The supreme bliss soul has already the knowledge and transcends all need of knowledge. Not limited in consciousness by the form and the act, it can play with the manifestation without being imbued with the ignorance. Already, it is taking its part above in the mystery of an eternal manifestation. And here, when the time comes, it will descend into birth without being the slave of ignorance, change to the revolution of the wheel of nature. For it knows that the purpose and law of the birtheries is for the soul in the body to rise from plane to plane and substitute always the rule of the highest for the rule of the lower plane, even down to the material field. The bliss soul neither disdains to help that ascent from above, nor fears to descend down the stairs of God into the material birth and there contribute the power of its own bliss nature to the upward pull of the divine forces. The time for that marvelous hour of the evolving time spirit is not yet come. Man generally cannot yet descend to the bliss nature. He has first to secure himself on the higher mental altitudes, to ascend from them to the gnosis. Still, less can bring down all the bliss power into this terrestrial nature. He must first cease to be mental man and become superhuman. All he can do now is to receive something of its power into his soul in greater or less degree by a diminishing transmission through an inferior consciousness. But even that gives him the sense of an ecstasy and an unsurpassable beatitude.
Yeah. So this is the bliss soul. The bliss soul is the one that has ascended to the Ananda plane permanently. Note that word permanently. That is the bliss soul. If you have not attained to that permanently, then you are in the spiritual planes of consciousness in the lower, but you have got glimpses and influences from the Ananda plane. But it is only an experience and not a realization. Okay? So now, what should we see immediately? So what happens when this bliss soul what is its characteristics? It does not, like the ascetic, want to reject the physical world. Not afraid of the physical world. The ascetic is afraid because he feels. And who is the ascetic? He is the one who is limited to the spiritual planes of consciousness. Not level 1, but level 2. And when you are in level 2, you are in a wonderful condition. But that wonderful condition is not complete. And therefore, you are afraid to come down, because the moment you come down into the physical world, take birth again, you are again back to square one. You are again in ignorance. You are where you will see separation. You won't see oneness. Okay? And you will feel identified with body, mind, life. All the old habits of the vital and the body will come back. So that's what he is afraid of. But the bliss soul is not afraid at all. Why? Because the link with the lower has been completely severed. So he can come down without attachment to the lower. That's what Sridhar explained. Okay? So we'll see carefully and note the words. The words are very important. The bliss soul. So again, I am defining bliss soul. The one individual human soul which has risen to the Ananda plane permanently. And permanently, I am speaking specifically because you will see later on, he is saying that the bliss soul cannot come down, it is not yet time. So, this is what he said. The bliss soul is not bound to birth or to non-birth. Okay? It is not bound to birth means it is not ignorant. When it is bound to birth, it is ignorant. And bound to birth means everybody who has not realized the soul has to come down, take birth compulsorily. But the bliss soul is not bound to come down. It need not. Nor to non-birth. Nor to non-birth. There are absolutely no preferences. Okay? It is not driven by desire of the knowledge or harassed by fear of ignorance. Knowledge it has, but it has no need of it, because love is the most intense, and the bliss soul is in love with the divine, and the divine is pouring himself into him. Absolutely, they are one. So knowledge is not so important for him, although he has the knowledge. That's what I will tell you. It is not driven by desire of the knowledge, or nor harassed by fear of ignorance. It is not afraid of coming down, because others are afraid, because when they come down, they will get again back their old nature. You may remember your spiritual experience, but you will be back to square one. You will be identified with your body, mind, life. Remembrance will be there of that bliss condition. But you are going to act in the old way only. Okay? So, the good example is Durvasa. Durvasa, the realized soul who is cursing and getting angry. That's exactly the position of the one who is in the spiritual planes of consciousness, and he may even have tasted the Ananda to a certain extent, who is not harassed by fear. The supreme bliss soul has already the knowledge and transcends all need of knowledge. The Jnani has need of knowledge, but the bliss soul has no need of knowledge, he already has, but it's of a secondary importance for him. The most important thing is the identification, love, delight, and love, bliss, Ananda, and beauty. These three always go together. So he doesn't need knowledge, although it is there. It's secondary importance. Not limited in consciousness by the form and act. So form and act means in the physical world, because remember, in the spiritual planes, there is no act, because there is immutable consciousness. So act, when he says, it means only level 1. Okay? And form also is in level 1. When in the higher, there is no form, it is formlessness. So when he says form and act, he means the physical world, level 1. So not limited in consciousness by level 1, it can play with manifestation without being imbued with the ignorance. So the bliss soul, when it comes down, it will remain pure. It will remain untouched by the imperfections of the physical world, like the lotus leaf in water. It is in water, but never gets wet. Okay? Whereas the spiritual man, okay, from the higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, and overmind, if he comes down to the physical world again, he will remember his experience, but he will be bound again to ignorance. Okay? But the bliss soul will not be. So that's what he's saying. already it is taking its part above at the highest level, in the mystery of an eternal manifestation. Eternal manifestation. So you've gone to the root of manifestation, and here, when the time comes, it will descend into birth without being the slave of ignorance. So such a thing has not happened yet. That's what Sri Aurobindo is very clearly saying. When the time comes, and Sri Aurobindo said, when mother asked him to resuscitate, when will you take birth again after he passed away in 1950? Sri Aurobindo said, I will come down again, I'll take birth. Mine will be the first supramental body. So that's what Sri Aurobindo, there's a hint here, see. Already it is taking its part in the above, in the mystery of the eternal manifestation. He is there, working at the highest level. And here means in the physical world, when the time comes, it will descend into birth without being the slave of ignorance, chained to the revolutions of the wheel of nature. Now note the phrase, we are looking at the words, revolutions of the wheel of nature. This is level 1 very clearly, because first of all, wheel of nature is the wheel is always a part of the machine. So nature is a machine, remember? Level 1, nature is absolutely a machine. Okay? It works like a machine. Fixed laws, no freedom at all in level 1. And also the revolutions. So when he is talking of the revolutions, it has many implications. One implication is revolutions in the physical world. He has used the word rhythm elsewhere, if you remember. Okay? Day and night, it goes on. Revolution. Now day, now night. Now day, now night. Then also the seasons. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. Again the revolution starts. So this is an unending revolution. Also, this is the nature. But the revolutions also are there for the soul, if you remember. Every birth it takes, it goes back again to the psychic world and takes birth again. That also is a revolution. So, and if you are revolving, then you are a slave of ignorance. Because when you are not a slave of ignorance, you don't need to take birth again. And you are free from the revolutions, either of birth or of the nature. Both you are free. You are not chained with the revolutions of the wheel of nature. And when the time comes, he will take birth again. Very clearly when he's saying the time comes. When the time comes, that means it will not yet come. And the bliss soul will be able to come down to the physical world without ignorance. That raises an interesting question. Does that mean that Mother and Sri Aurobindo were still in the ignorance? That raises an interesting question. And the answer is very clearly, although their consciousness is absolutely pure, when you are in the physical world, there is always an element of law that operates. Now, I am going to tell you something which you have to understand perfectly. Okay? Mother used to get cold. Okay? So she is subject to the laws of the physical world, her body, not her consciousness. So this is exactly what is being said. That time when even the body of the bliss soul will be absolutely free of the ignorance has not yet come. When the time comes. Okay? Note interestingly, all the avatars, they are subject to the laws of the physical world. Raman Maharshi, Ramakrishna had cancer. Okay. Then what about Vivekananda? He had diabetes. Okay. So this is the law. The law of in the physical world, revolutions. He's talking of revolutions of the wheel of nature. You are bound to be a slave to the machinery unless you go to the highest level. Even the supermind and the bliss soul, there when you can take birth again, you are not attached to birth or to non-birth. So you can take birth again without being afraid of being in ignorance again. Okay. For it knows, see, I am pointing out the words and the levels to which they pertain. So next time you read, it will be easy for you to understand what he's saying. For it knows that the purpose, what is it? The bliss soul. For the bliss soul knows that the purpose and law of the birth series, you know the word law, there is absolutely no freedom. That is level 1. For it knows that the purpose and law of the birth series is for the soul in the body. Okay? Not for the soul pure, but in the body. There is a series. Series of what? Births. 1 life, 2nd life, 3rd life, 4th life, 5th life. They say, the tantrics say that to get a human birth, you have to have 100 life, 1 lakh lives. It's a way of saying, it doesn't mean that everybody is we are counting and say 1 lakh is complete. It's not like that. It's just a way of saying. Just like you say 14 years of jail life. When you are jailed for life, it is normally 14 years. It is a way of saying. Okay? So 1 lakh lives. In fact, but very clearly, Shankara says, Nara Janma Durlabha. It is not easy to get a human birth. After many, many lives, you will get a human birth. So there is a series of this talking about. But it knows that the purpose and law of the birth series is for the soul in the body. It's not for the soul only, but soul in the body. And the soul has to get experience in the body. When it is above in the higher planes, there is no experience. It is static. There is no, remember, it is immutable. There is only mutability in the physical world. Therefore, evolution is possible only here. It's for the soul in the body to rise from plane to plane and substitute always the rule of the higher for the rule of the lower. The lower play, even down to the material field. Note the word play. Play is, the play suggests the movement. Okay, so it's the rule of the lower play. Lower play has to be slowly, with every birth, you have to go to the next level, and make the lower play less and the higher plane more. So it's a series, it's a steps. It's like any, like a staircase, one by one, you're going up. Now, the bliss soul neither disdains to help that ascent from above, nor fears to descend down the stairs of God into the material birth and there contribute the power of its own bliss nature to the upward pull of the divine forces. So, this is what you have to understand what he's saying. He's saying the bliss soul neither disdains to help that ascent. In other words, Swayambhu and Mother are helping sadhaks to rise to that higher plane. So they are very willing to help that ascent. Ascent from whom? For the others. From above. They are up there, but they are helping you to ascend. Nor do they fear, nor fears to descend down the stairs of God into the material birth and there contribute the power of its own bliss nature to the upward pull of the divine forces. So, the other is the avatar. When he comes down, he is helping all the others also to go up. But there is a difference between the avatar and the bliss soul. The avatar also is subject to the conditions of the physical world. It is subject to laws. It is subject to ignorance in the beginning. Okay? But the bliss soul will not be subject to ignorance. That's what is the difference. Very clear. This bliss soul neither disdains. How does he know all this? Because they have the experience. No? But experience is not enough. You have to be permanently stationed. And to be permanently stationed, so they say very clearly, the time has not yet come. Okay, when the time comes, he will do that. Okay. The bliss soul neither disdains to help that ascent from above. Remaining up, they are helping, pulling the others up. Or come down and help from below. That was impossible. The bliss soul neither disdains. Why? Because the ascetics are disdaining. The Jnana Yogi disdains the physical world, but they are not afraid to come down. Okay? Because disdain is very strong, hates. The others hate to come down because they'll be again bound to ignorance, but the bliss soul will not be. It will come down very happily. And then contribute the power of its own bliss nature to the upward pull of the divine forces. The time for that marvelous hour of the evolving time spirit is not yet come. Very clear statement, linking it to what he said earlier, when the time comes. And when will that time come? When the supramental body will become absolutely a fact in the physical world. Okay? So that has already happened, obviously. So it will still take time. There is a difference between the supramental rays coming into the physical world and the supermind itself descending into the physical world. That has already happened. 29 February 1956. But now it is preparing the lower for the descent of the supramental rays. That will take time. The time for that marvelous hour of the evolving time spirit is not yet come. Man generally cannot yet ascend to the bliss nature. There you are. Man cannot station himself permanently there. But he can get an experience. He has first to secure himself on the higher mental altitudes. What is the higher mental altitudes? Higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind, and overmind. Those are the higher mental altitudes. They are all mind only, but they are spiritual minds. Our mind is not spiritual, it's level 1. But here, when higher mental altitudes, so we are speaking about the level 2. Okay, the spiritual planes of consciousness. They are mental. The Sriyamda does not find it enough. Many others who don't know that there is even a third level, they are satisfied with level 2. You can disappear. You can do what you want with that level 2. Sufficient knowledge and is there. But Sriyamda wants level 3. That's the supermind and the bliss soul. Man generally cannot yet ascend to the bliss. There is a very clear statement. He has first to secure himself on the higher mental altitude to ascend from them to the gnosis. So once you have stabilized yourself in the spiritual planes of consciousness, you have to rise to the gnosis. So 1926, Sriyamda had stabilized himself in the higher mental planes. He had the overmind experience, the highest of the mental planes he had. Then from there, how many years? 1926, 36, 46. So 24 years. You are getting experience of the supramental world and the bliss world, but you were not able to stabilize it. Okay? And he told Mother that you have to complete the work of transformation. That's what so he left. I think I told you now that all those who were around him, there was Champak Lal and there was Nirodha, they asked him, why are you not curing yourself? Then he said, can't explain, won't understand. Telegraphic language used. Can't explain, won't understand. But to a certain extent we can understand, because when you are in the spiritual planes of consciousness, do you have your own will? Certainly not. Your will is a divine will. The divine is pouring his will through you. So, if the divine does not judge that the time has come and that you have done your work, now you come up here, he will obey that. So, why should he cure himself? He is not going to cure himself. It's an egoistic act if he is going to cure himself. So, that's one way we can understand this statement. He has surrendered fully to the Lord, and the Lord has given him a work. He has done that work. Now you go back to him. Okay. That's it. Now, so man generally cannot ascend that way. Still less can he bring down all the bliss power into the superman terrestrial nature. So he must first cease to be mental man and become superman, superhuman. All he can do now is to receive something of his power into his soul in greater or less degree by diminishing transmission through an inferior consciousness. Okay? Diminishing transmission through an inferior consciousness. But even that gives him the sense of an ecstasy and an unsurpassable beatitude. So very clearly he's telling you that even when you are in the higher mental altitudes, you can get a sense, part of the ecstasy and the unsurpassable beatitude you will get. But it's not a permanent one. So we went into detail to see what he's saying, and we saw each word, what is very, very clear statement if you go behind the words. Okay? The time for the bliss soul to descend into the physical world and not be subject to ignorance and the multiplicity has not yet come. Very clear statement. So let's read the next one. So
Can I ask a question?
go ahead.
You know, a psychic being which is fully formed, and you know, the individual opens to that psychic being.
Okay.
Now, when this psychic being is fully formed, it doesn't need to come down to earth again. So can you compare?
No, you are wrong. He has to have knowledge. He has to go to the self. The psychic being it doesn't have the power to cancel your law with nature. The psychic being doesn't have that power. It can only purify to a certain extent. Be very clear about that. You have to go to the higher planes of consciousness for liberation. The psychic being does not liberate. It purifies. The liberation.
Yes, but then there is no need for the psychic being to keep on taking birth again and again.
No, but the psychic being helps in purifying your body, mind, life. It purifies your nature, and that's necessary. If your nature is not purified, how will you go? How will you go up? So the psychic is the first step. It's very, very important to have a clear psychic. Not only that, if the psychic is not there, the rise into the higher planes can be very dangerous. So the psychic has a very clear function. It removes all the dangers. It purifies the being. It makes your vital full of energy. It purifies the mind to a large extent. Okay, and when it comes, even there are changes in the body also. There are body changes also when the psychic comes forward. Okay, and then when you are ready, you can climb safely. But the liberation comes only when you climb. That's very clear. Okay?
But I have read somewhere, I cannot pinpoint where, that once that psychic being is fully formed, okay, the individual is open to the psychic being and it's got all the possible experiences it wants, then it goes and reposes in the psychic world, and then it will come down only to do some work for the divine.
No, that's not correct. The psychic being, when it is fully formed, it can identify itself with the self. But the knowledge of the self is essential. If the psychic being is awakened, it is not enough for liberation. You read that passage again where you read, and you will see that. The psychic being is the psychic being is the one that helps you to purify yourself and become fit for climbing the staircase to the level 2. If your purification is not there, you may get a hint of the higher, but you will be afraid. I'll give you 2 instances. Okay, one was the famous Gopi Krishna. Gopi Krishna was a Kundalini yogi expert. He was a Kashmiri. Okay, and what happened to him? He was practicing meditation for 17 long years. Gopi Krishna was meditating for 17 long years, but he had no idea of the psychic. So he's going on concentrating. It's a mental exercise. One day, that mental exercise for 17 years bore fruit, and the descent started occurring in India. So the experience had a sound, huge waterfall. I'm saying waterfall, but it was power. It was knowledge coming down. He could not stand it. He got afraid. And he stopped. And he, oh my God, what is this? He has written many books. Okay? And he said, oh my God, what is this? He opened himself again. And again the experience of this came, the influence of the divine. But he became afraid. And because he was not purified by the psyche, he had to suffer like anything for 3 years. He was almost dying. His wife had to take care of him and nurse him back to health. This happened with many people. Okay? It happened even with Jagat Guru. Okay? Him also, he almost died, and people took care of him because he was not worried about the psyche at all. One day he was sitting on the hill in Mysore, Chamundi Hill. He had gone up and he had the experience of the higher plane. But after that, he had to suffer like anything. The purification of the lower is absolutely essential. Then these dangers are avoided. Okay? And I know of others also who have felt a descent coming into them. But if you are not pure, you will be frightened like hell. I can tell you. Yes. My God, what is this? Completely destroying everything that I am. You'd feel like that. So the psychic being has got a fundamental importance in purifying. Those who don't worry about this, the Jnana Yogi, for instance, does not bother about the psychic being at all. He doesn't bother. He gets only knowledge, but then he is subject to, they also have purificatory systems. That's why the Raj Yoga is so important for the Jnana Yogi. You have to start from this scratch. You have to prepare yourself and purify yourself. The Raj Yoga, you know, na? There are 8 steps. Yama, Niyama, then you prepare the body, asanas. Then you do pranayama to purify the vital. Then you do pratyahara, the rejection of the sense enjoyments through the senses. Pratyahara. Pratyahara. You refuse to submit to the sense perceptions. Then you come to the mind. So it's a very, very systematic way. The Raj Yoga goes from absolutely the body, then to the vital, and then to the mind. So it is ready for knowledge. And there is no danger if you do it in the right way. But if you don't do it in the right way, then you are in great danger. I give you 2 examples. Gopi Krishna as well as Sadguru. His name is Sadguru. They call him also Jagat Guru. He is now living. For long, many years, he almost died. He said. This is the danger. So psychic being is very important. It doesn't give liberation. It prepares you for the higher. And if this, as Yasmin was saying, if the psychic being is fully formed, then it has the choice of joining with the self. But the self is above level 2. The psychic being is level 1. The divine in level 1. That's the psychic being. Okay? So it was a very interesting discussion and clarification. But that is the reality. That's the truth. Okay? So don't say the psychic being is not. The psychic being is not important if you know how to purify yourself through Raj Yoga. Then it is not important. And in Bhakti Yoga, the psychic being only is doing, and it is so wonderful an experience that you don't want knowledge. But the liberation has to be absolutely essential for non-birth. You have to realize your soul, yourself. That's important. Okay. So we have got, I think, 2-3 lines left. Huh? So, still less can he bring down into the, he must first cease to be mental man and become Superman. All he can do now is to receive something of its power into his soul. So all he can do now is to receive some power of it. So he can have an experience in greater or lesser degree. If you are at the higher mind level, it will be lesser degree. If you are in the intuitive or overmind plane, it will be greater degree. So you will get some touches of the power of the bliss soul. by diminishing transmission through an inferior consciousness. What is this diminishing transmission? The transmission, the power of the divine coming into you will become less and less. Why? Because you are identifying yourself with it. So transmission is not necessary. Okay? Diminishing transmission through an inferior consciousness. But even that gives him the sense of an ecstasy and an unsurpassable beatitude. That is the reason why Sri Aurobindo yoga is make the path very, very safe. First, psychic, let that come, psychic transformation. Second, essential for liberation, the spiritual transformation. You have to understand the self. And even that is not enough for coming down into the physical world and being pure and untouched by the ignorance. For that, you have to rise to the third level, level 3. Then you have the power. That is the triple transformation. Okay? So, I hope that the discussion was helpful to clear some cobwebs in the mind. Okay. Okay, I think it's time. So this we'll read next time. And what will be the bliss nature when it manifests? In the supramental, a new supramental praise. He's saying it's not a Can't hear you clearly, Yasmin. Okay, so it's 8:35. 5 minutes is not enough now, so I'm cutting the link. Au revoir, everybody, and have a nice day.
Yes. Au revoir.
Thank you, Rangada.
Thank you, Rangada.
Rangada,
Yes, tell me.
only in integral yoga, psychic being is put forward. In another yogas, there is no importance for psychic being.
Yeah.
And only in integral yoga, psychic being is looked upon, and it takes part in the evolutionary process.
Yes.
So in another yogas, they don't see psychic being working in them. So how they evolve their psychic being, or it is beneath, it lies beneath only without evolution.
No, listen, Kiran, you have to be very, very clear. Don't say another yoga. It depends which yoga. If it's a bhakti yoga, they are very, very aware of the psychic being. Okay? But if it is jnana yoga, then they may be even ignorant of the psychic. Okay? You feel the need of knowledge. You feel the need through the evolution of many, many lives you have evolved, and you feel the need. So don't say another yoga, you have to say very clearly which yoga. There are many yogas. No? There is jnana yoga, there is bhakti yoga, there is karma yoga, there is integral yoga, there is a kriya yoga. There are so many paths, different paths. Okay, so it depends which one you talk. But some of them don't have need of the psychic being, but purification is necessary. And if purification is necessary, according to Sri Aurobindo, the psychic is essential. Very, very helpful. And how do you get that? By devotion and constantly thinking of the Lord. That's why Sri Aurobindo says Karma Yoga is the best starting point. All the work that you are doing, you have to do for the divine. See, Kiran, you are treating patients. Na? You are a doctor and you are treating patients. Treat the patient as though you are treating the divine in the patient. Okay? And offer your work to the divine again. So that is a Karma Yoga. Very difficult, but that is what Sri is saying. Karma Yoga is the best way.
Also now you told that other yogas, so as Kriya Yoga. So psychic being is not looked forward in Kriya Yoga also?
No, Kriya Yoga, I don't know enough about it. It was done by a householder and his name was Lahiri Mosai. Lahiri was a Bengali man and he created. Some do follow that system. Okay? There's so many systems. The divine is not limited to only one system, like the Christians think. The Christians think that you have to go through Christ only, otherwise you can't get God. That's not true at all. There are 100,000 million paths to God. Okay?
So mainly in integral yoga or karma yoga, psychic being is put forward.
Yes,
Psychic being is taking lead, and it is evolving.
yes, that's right. The psychic being is essential for the integral yoga.
And also the bliss soul, which we talked today, it comes from overmind, no, or only
No.
supermind.
No, not over mind. Not even over mind. It is above the super mind. The
Above
bliss.
supermind.
Yeah, I told you. If you think of the staircase as 5, then you have the earth principle, then you have the Pranamaya Purusha. Annamaya Purusha is number 1. Okay. Then Pranamaya Purusha number 2. Then Manomaya Purusha number 3. Then Vijnanamaya Purusha number 4. That's already the super mind. And Anandamaya Purusha. So the Anandamaya Purusha, in a certain way of looking and counting, is the highest. So it's not available, not at the overmind at all. But at the overmind, you can get glimpses. Srila said that very clearly here. Even at the higher mind, you can get glimpses of the bliss soul. But you can't make it permanent. There is a difference between the two. He said nobody has done it yet permanently.
So again, when we take birth, we have to start from first. Even we have glimpses of higher mind or intuitive mind.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah. When you come down in new birth, you mean?
new birth. Huh.
Ah,
So,
yes. But the more developed you are, the faster will be your progress in your physical body. Yes. Even if when you come down, okay, you start from scratch. But this time, because of your past development in other lives, your progress will be much faster. But you have to start from scratch every time you come down with the physical body.
okay.
But scratch doesn't mean to say that you will not progress. You progress much faster than that. Okay. I have to cut the link now. 8:40.
Yes.